All right guys, we have an incredibly fun project today, something that is super close to my heart. We're gonna be rescaping my wife's 75-gallon Firemouth tank. Over the past 3 years, my wife Mariah has just been supporting me more than you could possibly imagine. She's let me fill our house with over 13 fish tanks. She's helped me grow all of my channels, and she just is always there for me. And you know, I feel like it's time for me to take all of my experience and knowledge and give her one of the best scapes that I think I could probably pull off. And for that, we're gonna be doing her Firemouth tank. She is in love with her little Firemouths. I think because those Firemouths are so spicy, just like her, but hey, we're gonna go ahead and make this almost a biotope for the Firemouths. The only thing that's really out of that biotope is gonna be the plants. Firemouths predominantly live in not very planted environments, but my wife loves greenery, I love plants. So we're just gonna make this a semi-biotope Firemouth setup, and I can't wait to get into it. This is gonna be a fun, chill, relaxing video. So sit down, get some food, something to snack on, and watch us scape along, guys. Have a good day. We're at the stage one. One of my favorite parts is building that substrate layer for our plants. I always like to build as strong of a foundation as possible. And as you notice, there is some old sand and aqua soil in here. Something that is beneficial for me is I can use some old sand and aqua soil that already has some beneficial bacteria, so we can probably miss out on that new tank syndrome. So if you're doing a rescape and you have some, you know, dirty sand or dirty gravel, it can be dirty, it's not a problem. Grab it, throw it in the bottom and cap it with some sand or soils or whatever, and it'll help just balance your tank and make that cycle complete and healthy for your fish. So let's get pouring. All right, so the guys over at Aquaforest AF, they've created this lava soil. It's a crushed lava soil that contains minerals and nutrients for plants. And just like we were talking about the hot soil with the dirted substrate, this is gonna be a much lighter substrate fertilizer. There's not really a lot of hot and rich nutrients. This is mainly gonna be minerals that allow the plant to just be healthy and continue to grow to find all of the hot soil. And this just helps build up our capping layer so none of these hot nutrients escape and leach into our water column. Let's get back into completing our substrate layer. What we're gonna do is grab a bag of the UNS Control soil. And this is a fun trick that I learned from our favorite MD fish tanks. You're gonna wanna get one of these super fine mesh laundry bags, and you can fill it up with aqua soil so it stays in the bag if it ever gets disturbed. But what you can also do is once we fill this up and place it right here, since it's locked in that bag, we can actually use it as something to place our wood and stones on, so it doesn't shove into the substrate we just built and it doesn't disturb it all. So this is one of my favorite aquascaping tips, is get your bag of aqua soil, flatten it out. And just like that, we're gonna have somewhere that we can sit our hardscape and stones on. So we can even push a stone right here and put a big piece of wood right here, and it won't shove into this substrate and disturb it. So this is probably one of your best friends. So if you want to build up a high hardscape and it's, you know, heavy, get something that supports it and it balances out all that weight. There's no going back. Once we're at this stage and everything's poured out, it's final. There's no taking it out. There technically is, but that would be a headache. So you want to plan out your substrate base. I think right now we're finished. We got our rich soil, we got our light mineral lava rock, and we also got some aqua soil that will help with our height. So I think now we're gonna cap it with some gravel. I like using Carob Sea's gravel, the Peace River. It's very small gravel that still allows bacteria and detritus and debris just to fall through it to find its way to our substrate base and just create more of that planted substrate ecosystem. Something I like to do when pouring substrates is you always want to pour right at the start of it, I guess we could call it, just because if you start pouring back here, it could push this away and it would break apart. So if you build a little retaining wall with it before you cap everything, it makes sure that none of it's going to peek out forward. And with the final capping, you're going to want to do at least 2 inches. I'm probably going to do way more just because I need a lot of height, but I recommend minimum 2 inches. We're going to go all the way on top of the bag, and we'll probably even be putting more sand over top of all of this just to mix out through this gravel. Mariah really likes this gravel, but she prefers the sandy look. So we're gonna try to hide the gravel as best we can, and we'll probably do a decorative layer of sand capping after we get all of this locked in. Now that we are all done with our substrate layer, the next thing that I like to do is get our major hardscape pieces ready. And what I mean by that is get your rocks and wood out of the boxes and get it laid out all over your floor so you can see what materials you have to work with. And the reason I think this is helpful is because if you had all these out of sight, you might miss it, you might forget about it, and it could have been, the rock or the piece of hardscape that could have made the difference for your scape. So not only do I, always buy a few extras of everything, just, if one rock doesn't work in this scape, it doesn't mean it might not work in a scape down the road. So I always buy a few extra pieces of wood and rock, just so down the road, if I need some extras, I got it. So as you can see here, we have a ton of amazing rocks and wood to choose from, and there is no way that I'm gonna be able to use it all. And this is just me trying to show you guys how important it is to have more than you need for your supplies. This is just gonna let the creative process flow that much smoother. If you get a rock and for whatever reason it doesn't fit right, you have extras. Just toss it over, pick out another one, and it might work better. So this is why I like grabbing all these different sizes of small, medium, larges in rocks and wood, just because I just want to have fun, get creative, and have fun scaping this tank for Mariah. Tell me that's just working. It's just working. I love it when a plan comes together. If you want to come up here. So what you want to look for is, if you can, try to work with what the wood is letting you work with, if that makes any sense. Because what I'm doing here is I found this kind of notch, can sit into this little holder here. So once I get some more rocks and wood in there, that's gonna fit perfectly. And if you come back a little bit, you can kind of see what we're going with. What I'm gonna be doing is having a running waterfall dripping down here. So it's dripping into the tank there. So I think right now we just gotta get a little bit more secured with it, just because this piece of wood is about 30 pounds. So let's get securing. That was it. Let's give it a little tap test, a little jiggle test. Once we get our super glue on there and secure and lock it down, it'll be way more stable. And obviously, as we keep stacking up the sand, it'll just keep getting more and more built. But take your time doing your main hardscape. This is crucial. I always talk about the substrate is crucial, but the main focal hardscape is also crucial. When you're scaping, think about you maintaining the tank. Think about how you're gonna clean the rock. Think about how you're gonna get back here to maintain your plants. Think about how you're gonna, use your glass scraper. If you go with a brush to this piece of wood and scrub it really hard and you didn't lock this down, your entire scape is coming apart with one little brush stroke. So I always recommend take an extra hour if you need it to make sure that your hardscape is sturdy and not budging anywhere. So I like this. I don't want to touch it anymore. The tap test worked, and I know once we lock it down with some secure glue points, we're gonna be ready to rock and roll, guys. All right, so right now what I'm doing, just to let you into my thought process on how I do my aquascapes, is now that I've got my 3 main hardscape pieces added, right now I'm going through to find out where I could fit in some more bigger stones that would also add as focal points, create depth, add height, and also what you want to do is find all of your glue point areas during this time and make sure you don't forget to glue them. But right now, this is the time where you want to find out how the tank is flowing. You want to think about how your plants are going. You want to think about where your water is going to flow. And right now, I am seeing this as a tucked away back island. I'm gonna have the flow probably in this back corner, and it's gonna just be breezing around over here. And this is just gonna be a raised planted bed with a whole bunch of little hiding spots for all the firemouths. And right now, I think I just need to add a few more pieces of those rocks just to give a lot more depth. That canyon petrified stone is such a unique rock. This is my first big scape with it, so I think I want to showcase it a little bit more, and I want to add probably a bigger rock over here to let this piece of wood kind of sit on it. You want to think of nature and how wood really lays on rocks, and you want to make it look as natural as possible, and so you want to make it look like this wood, all these wood pieces, fell off of the riverbed and they landed in the river or the stream, and they're just resting on those rocks, and they over time got submerged and stuck onto those rocks. And that's what we're trying to recreate here. So let's see if we can find a good rock for that end piece and maybe one for right here, and we'll get to gluing. So right away I noticed this rock has a really nice peak to it, and it has some really nice reds, but it also has this little ledge here that it makes it look like, if I lift this up, that a piece of wood could just easily have fallen and laid right onto there. So we'll get this back into where it was supposed to be, and just might have to scoot it over a little bit. Yeah, just like that. So as you can see, it hides the man-made cut we made on the other edge there. So we can hide this glue part and this flat edge that doesn't look natural, and just push it to the back there. Just like so. Boom. I love that. That's looking really, really good. It's either gonna look really good or it's gonna look a little messy and noisy, but I always say, try it out, see how it works. Obviously, if it doesn't look good or if you don't like it, take it out. But these sticks and woods, they have so much character, so try placing them in as many different positions as you can, and you probably will come out with something you like. But ultimately, if you don't like it, just don't go with it. But I think having these sticking out of the top here to have the ability for plant roots and vines to stick on, the immersed plants like the monstera, would just be awesome to have. But the goal is to make it look natural, and that's our battle we're always having to make. But what I'm gonna do is what I always do, just throw it in there, see how it looks, and we'll run with it. Here, the glue here, here, here. And I'd love to get one right in there. Okay, so where to start? Let's get this one. terrifying. Ooh, right now I'm just trying to see how this is going to look. I've seen a lot of other scapers do this technique and having, you know, the twigs coming out of the top so they can have plants or whatever on it. Never done it personally, so right now I'm just kind of seeing how the sticks that I have are going to play in with my main hardscape here, and we're just gonna glue them up. The key is don't make it look too messy. You know, if you have something good and it's looking good, stop adding it. Something like I've mentioned in some of my other videos, don't get greedy with your scape. If it's looking good, don't add more, but obviously if it's missing that extra stick in there, go grab it and put it in there. Well, we finished our main parts of our hardscape, and honestly, I think it looks phenomenal. I love this scape so much because I feel like it's something different that I've done before. It doesn't look or remind me of any one of my other scapes, so I just am so excited to fill this up and show you guys and watch my dream come true. Right now, before we do our final capping with our decorative layer of sand, I want to go ahead and add some flourish tabs into the top of this gravel, just because when we go ahead and plant all of our plants, those roots aren't going to be long enough to immediately get down to the fertilizer and substrate we built for them. So what these flourish tabs are going to do is it's just going to help encourage them to get a lot of healthy growth and start reaching all of that fertilizer and substrate level that we took time in building earlier. So let's get these all dispersed around and we can finally start capping and getting some plants in there. I'm probably going to be using 2 packs of the flourish tabs. There's 10 in each of those packs. They recommend, you know, 1 for every, I think it's an inch by inch square grid. I go a little bit more. I don't know if it's overkill, but no, my plants have been super happy and healthy, so I'm going to keep doing what works with me best. And you just kind of want to put them where you think plants are going to go. They don't have to be, you know, exactly where you're placing plants, because these are very strong root tabs, and the plant's roots will sense where these nutrients are in the substrate, and all of the roots will naturally just start growing towards them. So that's why they say just put it in a grid pattern, because the roots, you know, nature's pretty smart. It's good at what it's doing. So they'll find the nutrients and, you know, they'll grow happy and healthy for you. Next up is our capping layer. We're gonna go ahead and grab our decorative layer of sand, and we're going to pour it over all of our gravel and everything. We're gonna cap it all down so it's nice, locked in. What that does is it allows the nutrients and the substrate to stay in the substrate layer and not leach into your water column. So let's get capping. Sometimes you just gotta add that extra stone that's missing from the equation, and sometimes 1 stone's all you need. We got a winner.
Kind of like that right there.
That's the winner. See what I mean is it as soon as you see it, you know it. So final step here is just placing some small twigs and sticks all around. What this does is going to visually help add the depth and the realism to it, so you can really get that feel that it's a, you know, riverbank or a riverbed really far out in the distance, because these pieces of wood in this tank, they're ginormous. So when you add these little tiny twigs around them and you know, get the depth and the height changes with the rocks, it just pulls it all together. So we're gonna go through, find out where we can fit these twigs and stones, where it looks natural, glue them down, get some scatter gravel going, and finally we're gonna get into some planting. This is something I'm very excited about. I was able to order some gravel from Mexico that matched the biotope specific gravel I was researching on about the Firemouth. So this gravel here is gonna be my scatter gravel. We're gonna go through and just sprinkle it all through. My recommendation with the scatter gravel, that's a mouthful, is literally just grab yourself a handful and just chuck it wherever. See where it lands. All it's gonna do is just add detail and color and contrast to wherever it goes. We got some monsteras that we're putting into this new scape for Mariah. These are one of her favorite immersed grown plants, and they've done pretty well for us growing out of our fish tank water. So what we're gonna do is you get it out of the soil, you're gonna take it over to a bucket of water or a hose, and you're just gonna rinse it off, all the roots and all the soil as best as you can. You don't have to cut or disturb any of the roots, you just want all the dirt washed off. So we're gonna go wash off the dirt, place these in the corner of this scape so it gets real jungly, and I think this is gonna be the cherry on top of this scape. All right, so now we're finally planting. We're going over to my plant storage tank. This is where I just had all the plants sitting that were in the 75 while we were doing that hardscape. I organized them the best I could, so when we do this planting run, it's as organized as can be. Okay, first plant. I think it's just gonna be all of these right along that back wall. You get a plant. You get a plant. You get a plant. You get a plant. If I could get this, I want it right back there. And I feel like it would look really good under that green one. But this is gonna be the problem. All right, so as you know, me and my scapes, they can kind of get a little extravagant, and we've been at this probably since 9 a.m. this morning, and unfortunately, my videographer Max has to head out to go do another shoot, so he's gonna go ahead, leave me one of his spare cameras so we can leave the planting action so I can put the final touches on it, and also we can get a really cool shot of putting all the fish back in here. But so far, I think it